Hello, welcome to this sixth episode of our Science Stories. The aim of this series is to promote public interest in science and astronomy. This is also a platform to make science more meaningful and engaging by sharing personal experiences of young researchers involved in scientific research. Making science stories central to our conversation is also important to spread the scientific awareness and to bring the culture of science and scientific thinking into the mainstream. The first story of this series was live streamed in July 2020. For today's program, I'm delighted to introduce our guest speaker, Prasanna Deshmukh. Prasanna belongs to a town called Sangli in the state of Maharashtra. He did his BE in Electronics and Telecommunication from Shivaji University, Kolkata. He was a student of Integrated MTech PhD program at IIA between 2011 and 2017. He completed his MTech degree in astronomical instrumentation in the year 2013. For his master's thesis, he developed a precision controller for the TMT actuators. His PhD thesis was on modeling, simulation, and implementation of primary mirror control system for the prototype segmented mirror telescope. Between 2017 and early 2020, Prasanna was working as a project manager at India TMT Coordination Center at IIA. He is now a full-time engineer in the institute. Presently, he is involved in two major projects, namely TMT, the 30-meter telescope, and Indian Spectroscopic and Imaging Space Telescope, INSIST. His interests lie in telescope control system, active optics, control system modeling, and simulations. Last but not the least, he is also one of the leading member of IIA's outreach team. Prasanna also hosts a YouTube channel called Science NonScience, which covers various astronomy events and science education program that he is often part of. Please join me in welcoming Prasanna Deshmukh for this program. We will now play a pre-recorded video of his science stories. Viewers can post their questions in the comment section below. We will take those questions during the discussion session after this video. So Prasanna, please mute your audio and video.
Hello everyone, I am Prasanna Deshmoop and this is my science story.
I know I have the best of time and space and was never measured and never will be measured. I tramp a perpetual journey. Come, listen all. My signs are a rainproof coat, good shoes, and a staff cut from the woods. My left hand hooking you round the waist, my right hand pointing to landscapes of continents and the public road. Perhaps you've been on it since you were born and did not know. Perhaps it is everywhere, on water and on land. This day before dawn I ascended a hill and looked at the crowded heaven, and I said to my spirit, when we become the enfolders of those orbs and the pleasure and knowledge of everything in them, shall we be filled and satisfied then? Not anyone else can travel that road for you. You must travel it for yourself.
Hello everyone, I am Prasanna Deshmukh. I am engineer at Indian Institute of Astrophysics, Bangalore. I submitted my PhD thesis in the field of astronomical instrumentation from this institute in the year 2019. I was born and brought up in a small city in southern part of Maharashtra called as Sangli. Until my primary school, I don't remember many things, but certainly remember how I was not that great in school education. I was promoted every year until 5th standard when my parents took one bold decision. With the present norm, no one will try to take such a decision. I was removed from a private English medium school and was put up in a government semi-English medium school. This new school was called as Shantan Ketan and was run by late Dr. P.B. Patil. And I used to see Tagore in him. This school was a place where you could play, perform, study and literally do anything you are good at. There was a scope for everything and everyone here. And perhaps I found a budding scientist in me at this place. Thanks to my maths teacher, who was our class teacher throughout our secondary classes until 10th standard. He was really good at identifying and I started reading books, participated in science project competitions. I used to get assured awards due to my creative experiments during this time. Every year, I was improving in studies as well as extracurricular activities. Sometime in my 9th standard, I was at my grandmother's place at Kurundwad for vacations where I read one article in newspaper about one BSc student from nearby village has built a 10-inch telescope. I showed this news to everyone around me. And on the last day of my vacation, while going towards the bus stop, my grandmother said me, "Look at that person, he is the one who has built the telescope." To see that person at that point at that time was a pure coincidence. I could not resist myself and ask her to talk to that boy and ask if he could show us the telescope. He agreed to show us the telescope, but it was at his house 10 to 15 kilometers from this place. So my parents allowed me to stay back, and the next morning me and my cousin was on a two-wheeler drive. I mean, that kind of journey and excitement of going to see 10-inch telescope I only had after 10 to 12 years when I was traveling to Hawaii to see 10-meter Keck telescope. He showed me the telescope and explained how it was made. That was the first time I got to know there are reflecting telescopes as well, and they are based on mirrors, and those mirrors are made by grinding and polishing one glass on another. That was a mind-blowing concept for me. Till then, I had only known refracting telescope and in fact had built one from few lenses and cardboards on my own. That incident was so inspiring to me that I decided to do career in astronomy. All my activities then onwards were based on doing career in astronomy. I was fearless to ask and get as much information as possible about the recent trends in astronomy, recent happenings, and most importantly, doing career in this field. I got to know I will have to pursue science stream via BSc, MSc to do astronomy. There was no internet, so no further information was available. But I also had keen interest in electronics and wanted to do electronics engineering as well. That interest was developed after looking at my uncle or mama who had a TV shop and was always seen repairing cool gadgets. And also maybe because of doing engineering, which was a safer path to get a job. Basically, I was confused to what to do in coming years. Incidentally, in my 9th standard, I got to know that one of my seniors had written a letter to Dr. Jayant Narlikar and he had received a written response. Those were the days we didn't even know what email was. So I too wrote a postcard letter to Dr. Jayant Narlikar and asked for career guidance, especially about is there any scope for engineers in astronomy? And yes, I too got a reply from IUCA. It was signed by Dr. P. Chellaturi, then IUCA coordinator of academic programs. That letter had a clear path for me. There was a clear mention of engineers can get into astronomy by applying through JEST examination. So I decided to complete my engineering first, but kept my interest alive by reading about astronomy, visiting astronomy clubs, visiting science centers, libraries, planetariums, and most importantly, trying to relate my engineering knowledge and projects to astronomy. We even built a low-frequency radio telescope, weather station, and a moon photometer during my engineering days. All knowingly or unknowingly to accomplish my dream to get into astronomy field. During this time, I got associated with 2 astronomy clubs, one called as Gaganvidhi at Government Engineering College in my city and another one called as GSE, which was started by me at our engineering college. It was through these club activities I got to know the importance of sharing knowledge, explaining concepts, building models, writing reports, and the most important one, conducting outreach programs. Outreach is an integral part of my life till now after I started attending astronomy club outreach programs in my school days. While I am telling these interesting and limitless stories, one constant force which was behind me all the time, my parents. It is their support, dedication and attention towards me is the reason why I am what I am. They gave me full freedom to choose and gave unconditional support to do whatever I wanted to do. When I look back, it's mind-boggling how they managed it. Those days were tough, means were limited, and ours is a joint family with 20 plus members. Perhaps those days and situation taught me a life's lesson to differentiate between what are my needs and what are my wants. Though many a times my parents kept their own needs aside to fulfill my wants. I'm blessed to have such a loving parents, and my wife is also equally supportive towards my journey in astronomy. My school and college days were different than rest of my fellow classmates. I had different hobbies. I used to love reading science articles, science news, magazines, astronomy books. I was collecting coins and stamps, visiting book festivals, visiting science festivals and conferences. I was following latest technology, etc. As soon as internet became accessible in internet cafes in my city, I started visiting them and started collecting and reading as much information as possible of outside world. On one side, I was excelling in extracurricular activities, but I must say that on the other side, I was not very good at college and engineering when it came to written examinations. I was getting average marks, so during engineering years, I was also not managing to get good marks in JEST or GATE examination. In final year, I had got a good job offer from campus placement, but I decided to take a year gap after engineering and prepared very hard for GATE examination. For 8 continuous months, I was studying for 10 to 12 hours every day and managed to get very good marks in GATE examination. And suddenly, many gates were open for me. I applied and got interview calls from different IITs, NITs and research institutes. First 3 in the list of interview schedule was IIT Bombay, IIA Bangalore and Raman Research Institute Bangalore. I appeared to IIT Bombay but could not get through. Next, I appeared for IIA Bangalore. It was a golden opportunity, I knew that. For me to do MTech PhD in astronomical instrumentation was a dream come true. Interview was long and intense but went well, and in 2 days I got to know I was one of the 5 members who were selected for IIA. That day was the happiest day of my life, a dream comes true moment. Back in 2008, I was in Bangalore to visit Bangalore Space Expo. That was the first Bangalore Space Expo, and I also visited different places including IIC, IIA, and when I came at IIA gate, I felt so thrilled but at the same time felt very bad that there was no purpose, no reason to enter this institute. I returned back from the gate itself, and in 2011 I came back to IIA as a research scholar. I was the first to do PhD in my entire extended family. There was a wave of happiness in entire family. My parents were unable to even believe that I'm going to get stipend to do MTech. My mother even gave me some money when I was coming to Bangalore to join IIA, thinking what if there is no such thing called stipend. In 2011, coming here, I was in a whole new world. One average boy from a small city in Maharashtra saw a dream, pursued it so hard so that one day he was at Indian Institute of Astrophysics, India's premier research institute. Wow, it seems a dream again. Life at IIA was amazing. Ocean of astronomy was ahead of me and I was ready to dive in. In the first year, we were at Calcutta University in Kolkata for the first year's coursework. I got to learn optics from some of the best professors in India, participated in different conferences, outreach programs, and sometimes street photography sessions too. My photography interest started in Kolkata. But at the same time, initially Kolkata was a cultural shock for me. For the first time, I was experiencing the meaning of term diversity, and towards the end of 1 year in Kolkata, I was among them. I think walking on the streets of Kolkata and traveling on those ferries of Ganga River, I understood the true meaning and importance of happiness. After returning from Calcutta University to Bangalore, we had internship time. Though usually we are supposed to stay at different observatories for 2 weeks, somehow we were asked to stay at Venubapu Observatory for 2 long months. It was one of the most peaceful but intense time in my life. We had all that time and energy required to focus on one single problem and dive deep, as if we were getting prepared for the PhD work we were about to start after returning to Bangalore. We had good projects proposed by few professors, and I chose to work on my favorite engineering topic, control system. But here it was for astronomical telescopes. That became my PhD topic in coming year. I worked on primary mirror control system for segmented mirror telescopes as my PhD topic under the guidance of Professor Padmakar Pariyar. Mostly built local controllers for segmented primary mirrors, designed and built new types of soft actuators for prototype segmented mirror telescope, built novel test equipments called dynamic loading assembly for checking wind and vibration response of actuators, that too in the lab. Also designed a new simulation tool called as CodeSMT, useful for analyzing control system performance of segmented mirror of large astronomical telescopes. As many others, I too struggled in writing papers, I too struggled in completing theses, and the only one key to climb this mountain is to take one step at a time and keep moving ahead consistently without losing the sight. The main difference between regular college life and IIA research life was there was a lot of time, there was no binding, no worries, no stringent exams. All the time and energy was to be used for self-understanding and trying to solve a particular problem of interest. During PhD, I got opportunity to visit different places and observatories within the India as well as abroad. This was to attend conferences, workshops, to do collaborative projects, etc. I even got to collect few meteoroids from California Science Museum in Los Angeles. This was also my childhood dream to get hold of few pieces of meteoroids. Once I was going back to home on a bicycle in the evening, and I got to see a bright meteoroid falling in the sky. That particular night, I got a dream about after seeing that meteoroid falling, I ran in that direction and collected few pieces of that space rock. From that day onwards, I had this desire to collect meteoroids, and it got fulfilled in my first trip to USA in 2014. All in all, it was intense but joyous time of doing PhD. I never felt the intensity because I was heavily involved in outreach programs right from the beginning when I joined IIA, and I'm still continuing to do so. I was able to be part of several Skywatch programs, lectures, hands-on sessions in the institute and outside. Outreach has become an integral part of my routine. In 2017, when I completed most of my planned PhD work and I was writing papers and theses, parallelly I came to know about so many unscientific and baseless news articles and videos about astronomy events. I always wanted to do something about it. So I decided to start a YouTube channel called as Science NonScience to make simple videos on topics I am interested in so that it can add a little bit correct information and right information in the vast ocean of unscientific content. I wish to make more and more content in coming years, but I am presently busy in so many other projects. Presently, I am fortunate to have a job as an engineer at Indian Institute of Astrophysics Bangalore, and I am working on two major astronomy projects. First is TMT 30-meter telescope, which will be of 30-meter diameter optical telescope and will be the world's biggest telescope. And second one is INSIST, Indian Spectroscopic and Imaging Space Telescope, which will be 1 meter size UV space telescope to be launched by India. So while doing PhD and solving different problems, I have learned few skills. I have learned how to approach a given problem, how to solve that problem, what to expect in the outcome, how to accept unpredicted outcomes, how to interpret the results, and most importantly, how to proceed ahead. Talking about astronomy and astrophysics as a career option, I feel that this field is for those who are deeply interested in this field and not for those who look at it as a yet another career choice. Finally, looking back, it's easy to connect the dots, but I think if you truly believe and consistently work towards what you need, you will get it sooner or later. Few points to remember is understanding the difference between our needs and wants is extremely important in our life. Identifying our rough career path at early stage is very useful to make to understand what is happiness and what it means to you.
Okay, that was Prasanna's science story. Very well narrated and very inspiring. So we have now time for lots of discussions. While the audience posts their questions, probably we can start this discussion with your PhD work. Is that okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Definitely.
Yeah. So you have developed control system for TMT actuators, and currently you are also a part of your job is also to manage India TMT work package related to primary mirror control system. So these next generation giant telescopes are going to answer many fundamental questions in astronomy and astrophysics. But as an engineer, can you tell us a little bit about what are the major challenges in building these big telescopes and why international collaborations are necessary to realize these big mega projects? Also, how our participation in international projects like TMT is crucial for India's progress in astronomy.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my story. It's kind of actual honor for me to be part of this. And yeah, about talking about segmented mirror telescopes and what are the challenges we face. For the audience who is new to this topic, uh, present generation telescopes or the present day telescopes, the big telescopes, are kind of made up of monolithic mirror. Of course, there are a few large telescopes of the order of 10 meter, which are made up of segmented mirror technology. So what we do there is instead of building a big mirror of a single glass piece, we break it down into small pieces, not literally big, but kind of build a big telescope, a big aperture by using small telescopes and align them. Now, as you know, that light is having its wavelength in terms of nanometers, so you have to basically align these small segments in the range of few nanometers. So that itself is a big challenge, and you can't build even bigger telescope than 8 to 10 meter with a single piece because of sheer mass and volume it will take to build such a big mirror piece. And it's very hard to handle such a mirror pieces, take them to mountain tops where the telescopes are placed. And you imagine that you build a 30-meter primary mirror of a single glass, and in transportation or while fabrication, if it breaks, it's basically you're losing everything in that project. So it reduces the risk of building big telescope by making it into small pieces, shipping them on top of the mountain, and then putting them together. Though it sounds so easy and nice, it comes with a lot of other challenges in terms of, as I said, aligning them is a big challenge. Further, keeping the shape aligned is also another challenge because there are lots of different types of disturbances like wind disturbance because these telescopes will be open in air. Then you have gravitational deformations of the entire structure, thermal deformation of the structure as it has to observe overnight. And so all these disturbances need to be corrected by using a very complicated control system which can adjust the mirror positions in nanometers. And while it is observing, you have to monitor the shape and also correct it. So you need the sensors which need to detect the disturbances. Yeah, so these are the kind of some challenges which are there in front of us for building segmented mirror telescopes. But fortunately, technology does exist, and of course, we need to innovate new things. For example, in the previous telescopes, like Keck telescope, which is the world's biggest telescope, has hard actuators, whereas what we are now manufacturing here in India for this project are soft actuators, which gives advantages in terms of reducing the vibration and correcting the wind disturbances very fast. So there are so many, yeah. So we initially thought that since technology is existing, maybe we will be able to build big telescopes straightforward. But while we are building it, we are getting to see newer and newer challenges, unexpected challenges, and we are trying to solve them. And engineering and astronomy together, we can build such kind of telescopes very easily.
Yeah.
You
And
also,
also, I think cost and the expertise that you don't get. I mean, one country cannot put everything together, right?
exactly.
So that's
Yeah.
why the
So
collaborations
the,
are
as you indicated,
necessary.
that this telescope is also, for example, 30-meter telescope is a collaboration of 5 different countries, and together we are building this telescope, which also increases probability of sharing knowledge and bringing in expertise from all over the world. One small example is just last week or so, we published one paper which I was fortunate to be part of, where we have designed a new type of linear actuator, which is extremely reliable. I mean, it can last for 50 years life, and that actuator is a very small, tiny actuator, but we need such 11,000 actuators in 30-meter telescope. And hence, we have to build them to be as reliable as possible. So, of course, 100% reliable components are not possible. What we have built is something like which will not fail in its 45 to 50 years life. And once in a while, some actuators will degrade in its performance. So we will replace them in our preventive maintenance period rather than these actuators failing on their own during the operation, which is very costly for us. So yeah, such collaborative works where 5 to 6 different countries were together working, scientists from different places were working, sharing in their expertise to build such a nice actuator. And it is true with most of our components. Few 100,000 components will come together to build such a single telescope. So it's kind of quite challenging. We share knowledge, expertise, and India will gain a lot from such project as well.
Yeah, okay, that's nice. So now coming to your interest in public outreach. So one major challenge, as you have already pointed out, that science communicators face all over the world is the rapid proliferation of fake news and pseudoscientific ideas.
Mhm.
And these anti-science ideas are basically rooted in blind faith in authority of some kind or another, and a flawed understanding of the nature. So I just want you to kind of elaborate on that. What do you think that how people become misinformed about science, and what more the science activists as well as scientific organizations can do to resist this onslaught of false and misleading information?
Yeah. So, I mean, like my experience, I mean, right from my childhood when I was in school and all, I used to read about these books and try to understand different phenomena, including eclipse, conjunctions, which happened recently. So, all these kind of events, I feel like many a times this information is communicated by people who are not aware of why these events are happening. And my first experience came in my school days when I read fake information about eclipse and how it is bad for us. Now, there was nothing which I could have done that time, but now time has changed so much. Social media is available, and whenever, though still there are so many news houses, so many YouTube channels, and so many social media accounts which who spread such fake information. But what I feel is when we read such information, we tend to just ignore it, and that is where a problem actually starts coming in, because people who are ill-informed or have different motives in spreading such fake information, they will keep on doing their stuff. But we as a community, also kind of outreach organizations, different NGOs and all, should start writing, start spreading the right information. That is the kind of only way I feel to kind of overcome this issue. And I always, sometimes, this kind of discussion I have done many times with my friends and including you. So what I feel is like it's kind of a signal to noise ratio in scientific terms. So we have a lot of noise, and in order to overcome that, we have to increase the strength of signal. And
Yeah, so
that is
I
one
think
of,
it's just a matter of number. If you have
yeah,
more
number.
scientific content, more people would listen to it.
Yeah.
And the effect can
And even if it means confusing general public is also fine by giving, if they know some fake information, and then
Right,
if you give right information, if they're confused, it's still better, because that confusion may lead to kind of
looking for
better
something
understanding of the
more
things.
genuine. Yes.
But
So
presently the number is less. Yeah.
right. So I will also take a question from the YouTube,
Sure.
and the question is from Niku. He wants to know which is better to join if I want to become astrophysicist, IISc, IIT Bombay, or IIA.
Okay,
So,
quite a very tough question. If I was having a choice, I would have joined IIA, because because I come from engineering background, and IIA is having very nice astronomical instrumentation, MTech PhD integrated course. So IIA is, for me, IIA is the best. But when I see these institutes, including IIT Bombay and IISc, they have very good astronomy departments. All three are kind of equally good, and they are kind of premier research institutes in astronomy. Uh,
and they
Advantage
are
of going,
right now they are also focused in a very narrow areas. In
yeah,
IIA, practically you do everything that exists
everything.
in astronomy.
And
So that's
it
a
is
one
good
advantage.
actually. Yeah,
Hmm.
in fact, it is good to have such a three, or even there are few more institutes which are very good in these fields, because it increases your opportunity and your chances to uh, be astrophysicists. So,
Yeah.
which is good. And IAC especially, they have a JAP program where once you enter in that course, you have choice to choose one of the four institutes, which include IIA also. But there is a ISRO and Raman Research Institute, including IAC itself. So all these institutes are good, and there are different ways in which you can enter
Right.
these institutes for astronomy.
So if I may add, I mean, one advantage that you get in IIA is that you come here, you do 1 year's coursework, and then you also figure out what interests you.
Yeah.
So there is you can do a lot of experiment in terms of figuring out your interests and then taking a call. So maybe in IIT Bombay or other places, probably that scope is a little bit limited,
Yeah, yeah.
though they are
Options
also
might be,
doing
yeah,
very great in their
options.
area of research. Yeah.
Very true. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's, I think that hopefully that answer Niku's question. So earlier, I also spoke to your PhD supervisor, Padmakar Parihar, and I asked him if he has any suggestion, personal advice or suggestion for you. So he said, I'm quoting, I'll read it out. Quote, I'm very hopeful that he will be doing excellent work in field of astronomical instrumentation, more specifically on telescope technology. I believe Prasanna is one of the best candidates for India's proposed 10-meter telescope project. It appears to me that currently he is involved in many activities, including the one linked with the outreach. Despite knowing the importance of all these works, I suggest him to devote his life for India's pride and need, that is, the 10-meter telescope project. I will have greater satisfaction if he majorly contributes to this project and makes our dream come true. So
Yeah, I
here is
mean,
the thing, Prasanna. Different people have different expectations from you, and your professional expertise and involvement would also be sought in many competing areas. So the choices that you make are not going to be easy or one-sided. So my question is, how do you plan to navigate, prioritize, and set your professional goals to achieve what you want to achieve?
yeah, it's a very difficult question, in fact. Yeah, I do face this problem, and then when I kind of look at it, I mean, as a whole, yeah, of course, I'm involved into several different projects, several different tasks, and the involvement comes because of several reasons. One is that I'm interested deeply into that, such as outreach program. Though someone tells me or not, I will go and do outreach for sure. So that is something comes internally. I'm very much interested in, and of course, sometimes it comes to uh, 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 to a point where you are supposed to do that work, being a part of some group or some as a part of your job. There are some tasks which I'm supposed to do, and
Yeah, they are
third is
assigned to you.
yeah,
Yes.
and third is basically sometimes someone needs my help, and I can help them. So these are the three different places where I find myself to be extremely, I find myself to be in a position where I can't say no. And I try to happily accept all the things which come my way and try to do as much as possible. But yeah, I had to learn to say yes to something, no to something. But it is a bit difficult choice sometimes. And yeah, fortunately, what Sir has explained and expressed, that is very true. I'm very much passionate towards seeing India getting a 10-meter telescope, as you know that we have now 3.6-meter telescope, and in coming decade we'll be having 30-meter telescope. So something in between this range is very much required for Indian astronomy community, and I share the same dream with many other people in astronomy community in India to have such a telescope. So uh, I am fortunate to tell that like there are in recent past there are few activities which have happened which are in favor of my this dream, and then I'm kind of getting involved into this project even more, and also trying to learn, because these projects are extremely difficult. You need a lot of understanding, technological know-how and all. So being involved into TMT is also helping me to see how we can understand stuff from there and see how it is applicable in our project. But yeah, I'm in I'm in that time of my kind of journey towards astronomy where things are difficult, but I'm happy.
Yeah. Okay. So let me take another question from YouTube. So Sneha Bhattacharya wants to know more about Insist, the second project that you're involved in. So maybe a little bit more if you can explain. That
Yeah.
would be
So
nice.
this Insist project, I'm of course involved from last couple of months. My part is very narrow. I'm working on something called as deformable mirrors, or digital micro mirrors, rather to be precise. And this project is kind of 2-meter UV space telescope, which will be launched by India in space, and it will be kind of a dedicated UV space mission. It's going to have different uh, kind of payloads, which will have optical payload as well as for imaging, as well as spectroscopy. So in spectroscopy, you know that like in order to take a spectra, we usually get an image of star and then put a slit in front of it, and that slit acts as a light source for the rest of the spectrogram. Now, if you do it star by star, it will take a lot of time, and these space missions have a very limited lifetime. So, if you can put a multi-object spectrograph, wherein you can sample light from multiple stars and take a spectra at one go, that is far useful. So, and that is what this digital deformable mirror will do. It will create slit mask for multiple objects of a in a given field of view from the telescope, and take a spectra of multiple stars at a time. So, and it is reconfigurable. For a ground-based telescope, people usually use have a physical slit mask where they are made on carbon fiber sheets, and then you can make different slit masks for different observations. But here we'll do it digital. So it's quite challenging. A lot of electronics is involved, and yeah. So this is a UV.
Mhm. So also to add that so far we had one UV space payload, AstroSat, uh, and next one is going to be Aditya, and this is also in the line. So this is going to be a space telescope, and that's why it is important. 2-meter class space telescope with spectroscopy is something very unique about this project. Okay, so coming to the next question, I just wanted to ask you from your perspective, how do you think institutes, policymakers, and funding agencies in India can make research more attractive and inclusive, as well as competitive? So, yeah, maybe, yeah, if you can go with this, I will then
To
go.
be honest, I have seen two pictures of this thing. I've seen places where we see that the kind of given quota of higher education seats are not filled in. Take example of IIA, where we have capacity of taking more students, but uh, we don't have that many students getting enrolled for PhD and all. Whereas I see a lot of competition for master's program. Many students opt for different courses. Sometimes they don't get the desired field of MTech course or master's course. So there is a one big group of students who are interested in doing something, and then other place you see that there are no right students coming at the right time. So what I feel is, what if all these institutes or all the agencies should work to propagate this information of available opportunities. Opportunities are there for sure. Funding also, I see that there is a good amount of funding available for doing courses. The structure of these courses and structure of these programs are very nice. It gives very good opportunity for students to visit different places, do their projects. And so, yeah, so there is a scope for propagating right information to a right age group of students. And previously it was difficult again, but due to internet, now it is possible. The only thing is students have to reach out and see which is that institute, that course which I might be interested. Because there is so much of unuseful information available on internet, and there are so many deviations and diversions can happen. It's a bit difficult to find right information, but with little search, students will be able to find what is right for them. And with little more efforts from different agencies, we should be able to reach out right people. So yeah.
Okay, so there is a follow-up question again. I think it's just a follow-up of Niku's question. Which institutes other than IIA provide astronomical instrumentation or astronomy opportunities for BTech students in India? So students with engineering background, where do they have opportunity to kind of get admission in astronomy institutes?
So, I mean, if you say instrumentation, typically there is IUCA, there is NCRA Pune, more importantly IIST in Trivandrum. They have instrumentation courses. So, and I hope that I'm sure that there will be so many other IISCs where instrumentation works might be going on. So, yeah, there are so many institutes, but an MTech PhD in astronomical instrumentation is kind of uniqueness of IIA. And yeah, so
right. So there's another question from Gondalia, and she wants to know, I think she's studying MSc in physics, and wants to know which fundamental subject in physics is very useful for further studying in astrophysics. So maybe if she wants to take up astronomy astrophysics, what are the subjects that she should focus in physics? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like this astronomy field is mostly based on physics, mathematics, and I mean, like the field of expertise you're trying to do. For example, if you take astronomical instrumentation, you need to be good at engineering subjects, some of the engineering subjects, and good at maths and physics. So maths and physics in general, having basic understanding is very essential. The rest of the things you will learn as you go. So I don't see any particular subject which you need to be good at within this physics, but having a basic understanding, very good understanding of physics and mathematics is very useful. And as I said, later on, once you get into the field, if you have ability to learn these subjects in detail, that is all enough. So more important is to get through the competitive exams like GATE, JEST examination to get admissions to this institute. So you should have eye on how you can qualify for these examinations. And if you're interested, I'm sure that you will be able to, in your interviews and all, you'll be able to indicate that, look, I am the best person for your course. Yeah.
So I think, once you are in MSc, if you focus on your basic subjects, that would be good enough, because most of the astronomy is basically built on your mechanics, mathematics, and maybe to some extent the computational physics, right? And of course, the basic concept like thermodynamics, statistical physics, and others would also be important. But you don't really kind of branch out so early. You just do your MSc, master's thoroughly, and if you do well in these subjects, that would be naturally leading to doing well in astronomy, astrophysics. So I also want to hear from you your advice to young PhD students in IIA or elsewhere, and any suggestions how they should plan and do good research.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, nowadays doing PhD is a time-bound thing. You have to complete a
Yes.
PhD in
Yeah, yeah.
given
Right.
duration of time. So planning is extremely important. What are the projects you are going to do? Keep some buffer time in towards the end, so that you, in case some projects get delayed, which definitely gets delayed due to some or other reason, you can always have some buffer time. Plan in
Right.
advance, and most important thing is don't take your subjects and details so seriously as such. I mean, then don't think that you are going to work in that particular field. Some people will be fortunate to continue their work in a particular field, but you may have to slightly course correct after you are done the PhD. So what is more important during doing while doing PhD is to learn skills, different skill sets which you're using in your projects. So that is important. Understanding the philosophy of how you're supposed to approach a problem, how to solve them, how to think about them. And also, as I indicated in my previous discussion, that our video, that it is very important to move ahead, accept what is reality. Sometimes people get stick to the results what they want rather than what is reality. So experiments are usually, in experimentation work you may not get what you are ideally trying to get due to the different reasons, limitations of your equipments, test equipments, then unmodeled disturbances, and so on and so forth. So, understanding the overall physics philosophy of doing science and doing research is very essential. And once you learn that, as you move ahead, any other subject or any other project, you will be able to work in the same fashion. So, learning skills is very important
Right.
during PhD. Rest of the things will happen for sure. And as you will be working for a particular subject for long duration, getting the papers, completing the thesis will happen eventually for sure. Yeah. And one more advice, my personal advice is, like, if you are trying to publish papers, don't try to publish too many papers in conferences. Try to get first paper or so quick as possible in journal, so that it completes your requirement towards submitting PhD. Then, of course, present your work in conferences for sure, but don't go behind, especially in technical PhDs. We tend to publish more in conferences than research journals. So, but it is a requirement to have at least one research paper in a good journal for submitting thesis. Yeah, so
Right.
try to publish as soon as possible first paper. Rest of the papers you can delay and uh, make them as
Yeah.
long and as satisfying as
There
possible.
wouldn't be much pressure. So
Yeah,
once you have satisfied the minimum requirement that is there for the universities,
yeah,
you can go ahead. Yeah. So I want to take a little bit of digression. So in your video, you have made an interesting comment about how you balance your needs and wants. And that distinction I thought is very important as to how we choose to live our lives. So as Gandhiji has famously said that the world has enough for everyone's need, but not for everyone's greed. So I want you to kind of expand and unpack that thing, what you said, the wants and needs, a little bit more, just uh,
yeah. Actually,
for the sake of further discussions.
yeah, to be honest, like all the thing which I mentioned in particular part of my video was
Mm-hmm.
kind of related to what my experiences were there in my childhood when, of course, looking at our surrounding and looking at different things, we tend to feel that, oh, I should have this thing, I should have that thing, but
Right.
it's not always possible. And our parents try to do and ensure that we get all those things we want, but it's not always possible. So I too had such experiences, and fortunately, that time I was reading some book. I don't remember the that I mentioned in my video, where it defined what is the need and what is want, and how we should look at it, and how we should use it in our day-to-day life. So,
Mm-hmm.
basically, in by definition, wants are the things which we desire to possess or desire to do something, whereas we needs are the things which we require as essential things, or these are the important things which we need to do straight away. So every many a times we go for shopping or look forward in our life towards getting a job or versus doing higher education. For example, for the students who will be deciding after BTech or so, that whether I should go for a job or go for higher education. One of the reason why many people choose a job is obviously what they pay in return. Doing a job, of course, you'll get money and other things, but the satisfaction you get while doing the research is different. And those who are in such a dilemma that what should I do? Because I was in the same state after my BTech, where I had a very good job in a very nice multinational company. I was getting paid also in kind of good enough, but I chose not to continue that and decided that I'll devote myself till I complete my masters. And my initial plan was do masters and then look forward. And then I was fortunate enough to get in IIA, but it was very clear in my mind that I don't want a job and I don't want to I don't want that financial gains immediately. So it was helpful, and then that can be done by just asking yourself whether this is my need or this is my want. When we see a nice mobile phone, if you feel like I should buy it, just ask yourself that whether it is my need or it is my want. If you feel like it is your need, you will definitely buy it. But if you ever feel that it is want, means you may not be requiring it at that point of time. So it's applicable almost. I use it every day, so it is applicable most of the time. If you are confused of anything, just ask yourself whether it is need or. And
so beyond the means of accessibility, I think our lifestyle choices have serious implications on the ecological sustainability of the planet, right? And a genuine progress towards a just and sustainable world require that we cut down our material excesses.
yeah.
So adopting a simple living is easier said than done, but nevertheless, I think it's a very noble thought, and one should strive to kind of cut down our material aspirations as much as possible, keeping the future of this planet in mind. Right?
Definitely. And then, as I said, like asking ourselves whether it is my need or want. This question itself is self answering. That your answer will come immediately.
Right.
Only, and then you have a call of action. Like basically, you will go for it or not will depend on that answer. That answer will definitely come. You just have to dare to ask yourself.
Yeah, I think that's very nice. So we do not have any more questions from the audience, and I think we are also approaching the time that we usually have for this episode. And since we don't have any more questions from audience, I want to thank our speaker for sharing his remarkable story and giving his valuable time for today's episode. So thank you, Prasanna, and wish you all the best for the work that you plan to do in future.
Thank you, sir. I'm pleased to have this opportunity, and then I'm looking forward for doing more and more outreach coming time together as well. And just wanted to be scientifically correct that during my discussion, I just said that INSIS is 2-meter telescope, but it is 1-meter telescope. I always have that comparison in my mind about Hubble, INSIS, and WFIRST.
Okay.
So WFIRST and Hubble are kind of the order of 2-meter, but INSIS is 1-meter telescope.
Right.
Just to be correct.
Yeah.
All right.
So we will continue these conversation in our next episode. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel to get regular updates and notification about our activities. So this year is going to end soon, and it has been a very traumatic and troublesome year for large number of people all over the world. So it's time to heal and extend our wholehearted support and sympathy to those who were at the receiving end of things. So may the new year bring more happiness, joy, and peace to all. So thank you for watching the Science Stories. Wish you all the best and Happy New Year.